The Kent School District has been focusing on providing technology in every K-12 classroom in the district. This means smartboards, projectors, DVD players, and a laptop in every classroom. Every middle school student has access to a laptop 24 hours of the day, as the district's goal is to provide anytime, anywhere learning. In this edition of The Future is Now, we'll be figuring out one question: why? We've spent the last 3 episodes focusing on technology in the modern workforce and in Kent schools. Now we'll delve into this modern movement in education to see why there is such a need to increase the use of technology in schools. Does technology really improve learning, or is this all for nothing? We're going to find out as The Future is Now investigates.
Coming up, you will hear from the founder of SchoolKit, Adam Smith, and later, Howard Levin, the Director of Technology at the world-renowned Urban School of San Francisco in California, and Karen Banks, the founder and principal consultant of Data Detectives.
On March 10, 1876, the telephone transmitted its first complete...
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
To assist in this Future is Now investigation, Catherine interviewed Adam Smith.
Adam Smith is the founder of the international company SchoolKit, which operates in the US, the UK, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. He has been a longtime advocate of public education and technology integration worldwide. Before founding his company, he was a teacher at one of the first schools in the world to implement a one-to-one classroom. So, Mr. Smith, can you tell us of your experiences as a teacher in Australia?
Certainly. Way back in 1991, I was very fortunate as a teacher to be working at a school where they were very committed to transforming classroom practice. We as teachers and educators up until that point had spent a lot of time thinking about how we could walk into the classroom and stand up the front and tell students what we knew, try to transmit our knowledge and hope that they would learn 30 students at the same time. And this school was really committed to moving towards a more student-centered approach to learning, where we would spend more of our time thinking about our individual students' needs, what they understood, and how they could build and construct their own knowledge. In fact, it was called a constructivist approach to education. So into that environment, to help us facilitate that type of learning, we had every student bringing their own personal laptop to school every day. So that's almost 20 years ago now. And as you would imagine, we had some tremendous experiences and learned a lot through that process. And a lot of other schools and teachers started visiting us and asking us, what are you doing and how's it working out for you? And talking to the students. And we started talking at conferences ourselves and sharing our experiences, both around Australia and also even here in the US. So what that led to was even, I'm proud to say, some other schools who started to adopt laptops themselves for their students. And that made a small contribution, I think, towards that overall reform in education.
So back when you were working on the one-to-one implementation, it was obviously a relatively unheard of concept for the average person. What made you so positive that the use of technology was the future of education?
I think what we were convinced of at that time was that the future was really technology, in the sense that technology is the way we as humans solve problems and shape our own future. And so we were convinced that our students were going to be using technology in the future to solve problems, and that to do that they really needed to be innovators. They needed to be lifelong innovators and lifelong learners, and that they really needed to be involved in an education where they were using the medium of the time, the technology of the time, to learn, because that was certainly going to be the platform that would help them shape the new solutions and the new technologies that they would be building to solve problems in the future. But in terms of a distinct event when I think we as a group of educators felt we were on the right track, I'll tell you a little story here. I remember sitting down, the principal had come to us, and we've been doing the program for about 6 months, and the principal said to us, you know, everybody's really interested in what's happening here, and I need to write a more kind of formalized rationale for this program and explain to people, why did we start this laptop program? And so he asked us to get together as a group of teachers and start putting some ideas together around that. And we started sharing as a group of teachers what we thought was happening in our classrooms and what we felt was happening. And what we found was we were talking about how engaged the students were in their own learning and how personally empowered they seemed to be able to take responsibility for their own learning. And we talked about the fact that they were starting to teach each other. You know, I wasn't the only teacher in the classroom anymore. It's like we had 30 kids in the classroom who were teachers. And my role was really changing. It just didn't work for me to stand out the front anymore and lecture kids. I had to let them take more control. And they were also transferring some of that problem-solving ability into other areas. Even when they weren't using the technology, they were persisting for longer before they asked for help. They were solving things on their own. So we had this long conversation about problem-solving and lots of the things that in education for a long while we've been trying to achieve. And it dawned on us that nobody had really mentioned the word technology. Nobody had talked about, well, the kids know how to save files now. Or the kids, of course they did. And that was kind of transparent to the process. So I think we were really convinced because we were seeing some of the long-held goals that we'd had for students really standing up and taking responsibility for their own learning and being problem solvers and being innovators happening in the classroom in front of our eyes.
So what gaps do you see in education and students in terms of access to technology and achievement?
In terms of access to technology, there are tremendous gaps. I mean, I really believe that by now every student should have their own personal laptop. And to not have that learning tool, you have to wonder, why is there so much complacency around the fact that kids don't have their own laptops by now? Just to give you an example, if you were running a hospital and you employed the doctor and the surgeon, say, you've employed a surgeon and he comes in to perform his first surgery, and you say, I've equipped the operating room, and when he walks in there he sees all of the old operating tools that have been used in the 1800s, an old rusty saw or something, he would scream. He would say, I can't operate on this poor person. I don't have the tools I need to do my job. I kind of wonder, why are teachers not up in arms screaming about the fact that they don't have the tools that they need to do their jobs? And I kind of wonder what's going on there, that there isn't enough kind of surprise and kind of dilemma from educators kind of taking the lead and saying, we need these tools to be ordered in order to be able to educate kids in the way we need to educate them today.
Many experts in the field of education, as well as business leaders, stress a sense of urgency when it comes to students learning 21st century skills for the global economy. Why do you think there's this sense of urgency?
Well, I'd like to think there's a sense of urgency because, there's kids in classrooms today who are missing out. And with each year that we tend to drag our feet a little bit and say, well, we'll get this started next year, and there's this kind of slow approach to change, kids are graduating without the skills they really need. So that's what I'd like to think is behind that sense of urgency. I think there's a lot else to it, though, as well. Politically, we're hearing a lot about the urgency because a lot of the work, for economic reasons, and people realising that it has a lot to do, education's always had a lot to do with the country's future, but now more than ever, we're starting to, our young people are going to be competing for jobs with people from all around the world. I mean, a lot of the work that's being done these days is digital work, and it can be done anywhere by just about anybody with the skills to do it. And so even some of the tasks that in the past we might have considered fairly complex, like some forms of accounting, they've become very routine, and you can even have accounting done for your company in India if you want to at much lower rates. So for those reasons, I think that some people are talking about the fact that we're going to move into an environment where we're competing globally for jobs. What I like to emphasise a little bit more than the competition is the need to prepare our students to collaborate globally, the need to understand how to work across cultures, because it's very likely that the young people coming out today will be working in teams where they might never even meet some of the other people that they're working with. They might be on the other side of the world, and they might have quite different backgrounds, and they need to be able to work with those people and be really productive with those people. So I'd like to emphasise a little bit more about the global collaboration and cooperation and then competition, but I guess both are important.